Thanks for checking out this week's FinPrep Trading and Investment video newsletter. Looking at the year-to-date relative performance, Qs basically are pulling up the top of the pile in terms of primary U.S. market equity indices. So your basic large cap tech pulling ahead. We'll look at why, and we discussed this a few months ago. With basically a long base, basically approximately half of a year moving sideways, finally waiting on that breakout of 120. And so we'll look at that on the chart there. Bonds basically flat to slightly negative on the year, although we're now at oversold levels. We'll find that on TLT. So things may shift in the upcoming week. In terms of metals, copper finally regaining a bit of its steam there, holding good company with the precious metals on a good year-to-date run so far. And what we'll want to see, although yen did lose a bit of its strength here this week, we'll want to see it hold the short-term trend line that we'll pull on the chart to kind of confirm or move along with that tight correlation that it has held with GLD anyways. So continuing strength in yen would be positive to see for metals, simply on the basis of correlation. Euro continues to climb ahead, and pound made a decent showing of it, and we'll take a look at why. So SPY and breakout gap up on Wednesday morning. Finally, looks like about the fifth daily touch anyways. Managed to close above the trend line, short-term resistance slightly below the 228 level, gapped up and faded slightly for the rest of the week. So 232 seems reasonable short-term target for potential resistance, as we had at 228 and then a bit of a break. Don't know that the break would be as extended, but we'll take a look at it. Dow finally did take out that round number resistance of 200. DIA tracking ETF, of course, and again overbought as with SPY on the short-term fast stochastics. Qs, so basically Qs is what interested us here and mentioned multiple months ago. Finally, waiting that breakout of the 120 level, and the interest was that it basically had consolidated in a positive fashion in that it wasn't, it was a nice, relatively shallow period of consolidation, rather tight range, approximately 114 to 120. So now having finally taken out the 120, it's beginning to move in a meaningful fashion at about 126, slightly below here. Trannies did finally make their significant move on a weekly chart basis. We had basically a bull flag pull back into the 9-weekly exponential moving average. Took 2 weeks on a lag, but finally did manage to pop and show some strength, and following through and retesting highs there, as you can see. So for the trannies, always kind of an interesting trade, but it's good to see confirmation then. Small caps, Russell, IWM, ETF here, basically, from the grander scheme of things, well, obviously a long-term price channel, appreciation there, stretching back in 2016, and with bullish consolidation, looks like approximately 7 to 8 weeks here, moving sideways to slightly down. Got the breakout on Wednesday, now pulling back and holding the top, as well as you have pretty significant, obviously, your 9 EMA and your 20 DMA coinciding with your upper resistance there. So pretty important spot here for Russell. Russell may end up making a more decent showing of the week should we get further upside. So just the quick note here on mid-caps, MDY ETF basically is just the power of a trend line, so stretching back to late April 2016, you'll see essentially just a straight line drawn off these prior highs and capping a rally here, kind of a breakout, retest, and so forth, but basically capping a rally here, and here we are capping a rally once again. It does seem plausible, again, if we get further upside overall, that the 312 would be taken out, but just fascinating to see how it was basically a high of week on Thursday. Just a simple straight line. Go figure. TLT, Treasuries. So finally moved into oversold territory on our fast stochastic even. We were there previously on our ultra fast, but I'm doing a bit of jumping around the trend line here, which capped prior rallies, similar to our other story. So this is our third attempt, and could we make it a fourth next week and get above this trend line for continuance of the upward move, given the oversold condition. Again, big picture looking at basically being at your third primary touch of this very long-term, well, quite long-term trend line stretching back to 2011. So multi-years, half a decade approximately in the making. So a decent little run, similar to gold, approximately 4 weeks looks like, and then pulling in here for the past 2. So the question is, if this move off this trend line lows is to continue, and we did see a hold of the 118 level so far, we'll want to see it play out sooner rather than later, particularly with MACD there hanging out at the 0 line. So interesting here on dollar index, basically we discussed the idea last week of 25.90 to 25.80 being low of week and potential support. So within nearly a penny there so far on the UUP, holding low of week looks like Wednesday there. And question here is then, could we carve out another seeming head and shoulders pattern and fail that and break out to confirm this prior move to a breakout of multi-month highs? So that's the scenario that seems most plausible, but obviously we'll evaluate as things unfold. So good support there out of dollar index. Gold then similarly, pulling in. So again, after 4 weeks of a decent run right prior to beginning of year, here we are pulling in just somewhat, and not too bad. Interesting piece here on silver, although it could be a false signal, is just a considerable outperformance on the day Friday, and as you can see, basically taking out this downward price channel resistance line and closing above it, which is positive. GDXJ gold miners juniors, so quite volatile. Holding the 36 level and the 20-day moving average, so pretty positive bullish consolidation. Similarly with that nice beginning of year run, here we are moving sideways in time, working off overbought conditions, as you can see, as we gravitate now towards oversold, and yet not giving up too much in price. So still contending with that 250 and then the 50-week moving average, as you can see, basically is capped prior. Looks like our 4-week little consolidation here. So pretty reasonable strength there out of the gold mining index so far. Copper did kind of get its second pullback, as we saw, and then a decent run here. So a breakout above these high off this massive run we had stretching back to late October of last year into new bull market territories for copper. It seems as if a breakout now is an increasingly plausible scenario. So good strength out of copper. It looks as if, there may be decent days ahead, but we will see how things unfold. Just quick note here also on Chinese stocks. So FXI basket of looks like approximately 25 stocks. Not the best setup in that it's at overbought conditions, but interesting again to see a nice little breakout off of a downward price channel, and here we are with the slight retest, although it's almost immediate, of that upper band or upper resistance point. So we could see better days ahead. And again, a target of perhaps 39, where you had prior highs, triple top. Would be interesting to see, but again, overbought conditions, but still something to keep our eyes on. Chinese stocks there. So Japanese yen, important that we hold the short-term trend line. It's not precise, but you can see it basically captures many of the moves off of it. So pulling in a bit here. So it would be nice to see, given the high correlation between FXY, Japanese currency ETF, as well as GLD. Historically, we'd want to see some confirmation there to give renewed underpinnings to the thesis of beginning of year bull market or bullish run in precious metals. So Euro continues to chip away at that short-term resistance line even on this week once again. So just continued strength, and again, bigger picture, longer term, we're looking at our weekly chart stretching back to 08, so considerable period of time, fifth primary touch and a decent move off there. So just continuing to chip away, good movement, good strength out of Euro. Bit rocky of a ride, but just gradual strength. Moving on. So pound did take out that 50-day moving average, which was positive. It seems as if another retest of the 124.50 could be in the offing, or perhaps even as high as the trend line resistance there. But clearly the bearish scenario has now passed us for pound, and we're pulling into the 9 EMA. So it looks like pound has some decent days ahead of it as well. So that covers it for this week, guys. Hope you all enjoyed. Take